Hey, good morning.
Happy New Year. So before we ended the new year, hold on, I need to click on something that says, got it. In December, before we ended the new year, we had a training session about buyer representation, working buyers properly, making sure that we work with qualified buyers, and it's better to have, let's say, 5 serious buyers than to work with maybe 10 to 20 leads that you're not sure, first of all, what their motivation is, what their timeline is like, what they're really looking for. So what I want to talk about today is cleaning up your CRM, your client relationship management tool, which all of you guys should have. KV Core gives that to you for free, right? So all the buyers that you guys are meeting or the leads that you're getting on a regular basis goes into this CRM. But do you have like a specific system that you follow in terms of knowing their motivation? What is their timeline like? Should you be nurturing them? And if you do nurture them, how often should you be touching them or reaching out to them in order to make sure you're not losing this lead? Because we all know that when a buyer calls you on a listing, let's say, or they visit you at an open house, you're obviously not the only agent that they are speaking to or that they are meeting, right? And it comes down to the best agent or the agent that they feel most comfortable with, or sometimes the fastest agent, right? The agent that calls them back the fastest, or the one that's most persuasive, ends up getting that buyer. Right, so we want to make sure that we're not losing out on potential leads or potential deals because we're not following up fast enough or efficient enough, right? So let's talk about cleaning up your CRM, because right now we're in the winter market, right? Where it might be a little bit slower for some of you. So I want you guys to work on your business so that once the spring market comes, let's say early on, February, March, whatever, sometimes it starts earlier, you have qualified buyers ready and you know that they're serious, that you're gonna work on first, okay? Sorry, give me a second. Okay. So you guys should be putting your leads into stages. So I know when you get a lead, right, that comes in, it goes into your CRM. Depending on which CRM you have, I believe there should be, like you could tag them, right? You could also write notes. So I want you to put them in stages, which should tell you how soon they may transact. And how do you find that out? By calling them, asking them a series of questions. So a lead is someone who has never been contacted. On the very first day that a lead calls in, right, you should be calling them at least 3 times the very first day, right? Don't just call one time, they didn't pick up and forget about them. On day 1, call them, text them, email them at least 3 times. You should be calling them for a series at least once a day for 10 days, with the exception of the first day, which should be 3 times. Okay, for the first 10 days. It's still nothing after 10 days. Let's say they inquired about something. After 10 days, still nothing. Put it in a fishing pond. It's what we call a fishing pond is you've called, the leads are from anywhere from, let's say, 10 to 24 calls and still no contact. Okay? And then there's something called a deep pond, which is 25 plus calls and still no contact. So I want you to sort them out, because the biggest problem I think agents have is that they call them once, they call them twice, and then they tell me it's a dead deal, dead lead. Right, and you just forget about it, you throw it away. You really need to keep calling, because there must have been some type of motivation or something that the buyer decided that they wanted to click on a property or call you on a property or walk into an open house. Maybe you're just catching them at the wrong time.
Lily,
Yeah,
you have a pond for people that you've tried calling 25 times.
I don't work buyers, but I want my team, there's 3 of them here. Oh, hey, Ellen. I haven't seen you in so long. Sorry, I haven't seen Ellen in so long.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like 25 times. I would be very impressed if agents tried 25 times without contact.
That goes into the deep pond, yeah. But leads should be called at least once a day for the first 10 days. I don't want leads to be thrown away.
But plus, when you have coming soon, that's also a way to drip, so that's a form of contact.
Yeah. It's a form of contact. So there's also something called the open house pond. You could pair up with a colleague, let's say, I think you have some agents that work together pretty often, right, Vincent? Or you have like a team, you have a team.
Yep.
I have a team. There's something called the open house pond. I know, despite my agents telling me that they call back their open house leads, I bet you some of them do not, right? I don't know, they put it in their heads that they're not serious, they're just lookers, they don't wanna bother the people, you know, whatever the excuse is. You could do an open house pond, and then the open house leads, they go into this pond. You pull this pond together as a team, and after 2 to 3 days, since the open house, anyone who has contributed to this pond can call the pond. And the goal is to fill the pond and constantly empty it. Hey, where'd you go, Vincent? So open house ponds, I think, are also amazing, because those leads, I know for a fact by speaking with some of my agents, by speaking with Cindy, that those open house leads, yeah, you get them to sign in, yeah, you get them to sign your agency or whatever, but they're not followed up on. So if you're not following up on them, then let your team member follow up on them.
Let's step back because I think you said something that's really important that we kind of glossed over, right? There's people that reach out to you guys, and they're reaching out because they were compelled to for one reason or another, right? They clicked on a button, they want to know more information about a house, and then they don't freaking respond to you.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that so common? Like what's up with that? They reached out to you, you got an email, you got a text, you got a phone call, and now they're not answering.
I do that all
Right?
the time, to be honest with you. Like sometimes I'll be sitting in my bed and I'm like, oh, I wanna do something about, a cold plunge, right? And then I start inputting all these things on these websites about, like, give me more information on this cold plunge. And then when they do send it to me, I'm like, oh, I don't have time to respond, or I don't, like maybe it's not the right time. Jeff and I ended up in a cold plunge, maybe 9 months after we started talking about the cold plunge, right? For me as a consumer myself, I'm putting myself in the shoes of these buyers that are buying real estate. I had intentions of buying a cold plunge. I started my initial research on this cold plunge. I started inquiring about this cold plunge, but not everyone followed back up with me.
So think about that, guys. That means the sales cycle for the cold plunge is 9 months.
For
Okay.
me. And
For you it was
$1,000 on this cold plunge, right? And it was a large purchase. But the thing is, like, those companies could have made that money if they had, I think, followed up better.
right. So
But the fact that I didn't come back didn't mean that I wasn't in the market. It just meant I needed more time.
Right. So here's the thing. So either you could go and pay for, remarketing, right? And follow your people around the internet that reached out to you. And there are companies that do that. We do that, right? We have a company called Ylopo that does that. Remarkets to the people that come and visit our website or click on our stuff. But the other part of it, like Lily mentioned, was, calling them for 10 days, right? We have a phrase for that. It's called 10 days of pain, right? And it's painful because they're not responding to you, and you just have to keep trying, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't want you to skip over that because people are busy. People have their own lives. You have to try them at different times of the day, and you have to try them in different ways, right? Might be a phone call, might be an email, might be a text. But if you don't go through 10 days of pain, like you can, I consider that like you just gave up.
Yeah, and I think people give up because of the stories that they tell themselves, right? You tell yourself that the buyer is not serious. You tell yourself that it was just the looker, it was just a neighbor, it was whatever.
Right. So
No matter,
everybody, so a couple things you said was everybody in your CRM, right?
yes.
Everybody in your CRM, even if they're the open house people, the buyers, the vendors, whatever. Everybody in your CRM, and then 10 days of pain.
Jade walked in and I said to Jade, because I don't know if you guys remember a few months ago, or maybe even half a year ago, she decided to go into her CRM and clean it up. And at that time, how many leads did you have in your CRM?
I can't remember how many, but then I had 5 to 6 people reach. And I ending up worked 3 buyers, 5, and then 2 sellers.
You guys hear that? So her CRM, which she did not touch for a while, she ended up calling all of them, and it was like hundreds of leads in there. Out of the hundreds of leads, I think she managed to revive 5 of them. 3 became buyers, which she closed, and 2 she listed, right? And I said to her, like, you need to clean up your CRM again. She goes, I know. So, the whole point is we're now in a slower time in this calendar year where you have time to clean up your leads. Find those serious buyers and sellers, right? I'm working with a few sellers right now that says, I met with them and they won't be ready till February or March because they're cleaning out or they're doing whatever. But I'm gonna follow up with them before February or March. I'm gonna check in weekly to make sure that I'm not forgotten, So that's the whole idea, that you wanna make sure that you have the most qualified leads and the most qualified buyers when it becomes busy season. Okay, let's talk about nurturing, right? How often you should call them if, let's say, they are 90 days within transacting. If you nurture them 0 to 90 days from transacting, you should call them weekly. Weekly, just to like check in. Anytime we call, we follow up with a conversation with a text or an email recapping. If no answer, we also text and email. Nurture 91 to 180 days. They are within 91 to 180 days of transacting. We call them every other week. Anytime we can, we follow up on a conversation with a text or email. Same thing, if no answer, we also text and email. And if we are nurturing someone from 181 days to, let's say, a year, 365 days, you call them monthly. And you could follow up with a conversation text, same thing. 365 plus, they're more than a year out, right? From transacting, we call them every 110 days. Anytime we call, we follow up with a conversation, text, email. You're gonna archive people that are nice people, they have good intent, because I've had them, right? Like lonely lady that just wants to talk to you about her life and everything that's going on, and you just you kind of have a feeling that they're nice people, but they're not really transacting. So you could archive, but still get out emails for referrals, right? But it's like a no call cadence. And then you could trash the ones that obviously curse you out, say to not contact them ever again, or are agents themselves, or says that they have a buyer broker agreement or contract with them, okay?
Never trash the agents, keep them there, because you always want to keep.
You know what I'm talking about, like, don't follow up for a buyer as if they were a buyer, but yes, you could keep them as your friend. Okay. So you talked about following up with everyone in your CRM, not just like the leads, right? All the, like vendors, also people that might be your friends, maybe your past clients. And one of the trainers that I was listening to said something that I thought was pretty cool. You know how when we make phone calls, right? And we know we're about to ask for a referral, right? It's like an uncomfortable call because I'm like, hey Vincent, how are your boys? How are things going? You know, are they enjoying school? And then it comes off fake when I'm like, I have this listing, or have you thought about selling anytime now in the near future? Because now the person's like, oh, they didn't really care about my son or my family, and then it comes off a bit like weird. You guys know what I'm saying? Right, Vincent? So
Yeah,
I think you
I
should,
have my opinion on that stuff, but go ahead.
the thing that kind of like, interested me that he said was, why not, you don't like being tricked, right? We know when we're like, oh, this person is asking me how I'm doing, but they're really calling for a referral or they're calling for business. So why not start the call off with, hey, Vincent, it's Lily with EXP. I just wanted to cut to the chase. This is a business call. And then
That's
say,
exactly what I was gonna say, Lily.
yeah, say that. And then after, right? Say, so how are the kids? How are the boys? So that it doesn't come off
Think,
salesy, it doesn't come
Yeah.
off icky, it doesn't come off like you're tricking them. Get that out of the way. Say it's a business call. And then go into, hey, how's the wife? How are the kids doing in school? Are they enjoying fifth grade? Are they enjoying eighth grade? Like, and then you get into that, and then you leave it on a better note than pretending like you care, asking for the business and then hanging up, like, oh, right? You wanna say something, Vincent?
No, it was exactly what I was gonna say. I think that's what Mike Ferry teaches. He puts all his people in, his past clients, they get a call once a month. And he's like, I train them so that they don't stay on the phone with me for a long time.
Yeah.
One to the next, to the next, to the next. And he's like, oh, this is a business call, and essentially he's looking for referrals every single month.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's like the better way to approach it, because I'm putting myself in the shoes of the people I'm calling, and I would hate to get calls where they're pretending like they care about me and my family and then ending it with a business request, right? Whereas just be truthful from the beginning and say, hey, this is a business call, and this is the reason why I'm calling, okay? It's enough to me. Okay. Any questions so far? So I want you guys to work on cleaning up your CRM. I'm gonna talk to Cindy also about us cleaning up our CRM. It would be great if you could also maybe have a call night where
Yeah.
people
calling
clean up.
everyone.
Yeah, like a call night where we call and clean up our CRMs and have those buyers in hand, right? There was another thing that I thought was pretty cool. I don't know if I could share this link with you guys. I want Michelle to help me. So you know how I talked about a text or call or whatever, and then making sure you're in touch with your CRM? Many of you guys are probably thinking, well, what do I email them about? How do I keep in touch with them? What should I talk to them about? This guy has topics. How do I put this on here? Jennifer, can I text it to you? Are you here? Somebody has to help me with technology.
I mean, you can send it to me and I'll send it to Jennifer, or you can send it to
I can-
Jennifer.
You can send it to whoever is on and then they can just put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just copy and paste it.
Who's on this chat? Sue,
Yeah, send it to.
Sue, you there?
I'm posting.
Sue is not answering. Juan? Juan, are you there?
Yeah, I just got in. I'm sorry, I'm just a little late, but what's
Juan,
going on?
Give me your cell phone number.
What, you wanna send it to me? Just send it to you.
My
Okay.
cell phone number?
You know what? I got someone else. Give me 1 second.
Oh, I can give you now, 516-710-8412.
I'm gonna just send it to Ellen Chang.
Okay, that's fine.
Recording in progress. You got it?
Oh, hold on, let me
Okay.
get this.
These are weekly email topics, that you guys can use to reach out to your sphere. Obviously, you're gonna tweak it and make it your own. Hey, Ellen, nice to meet you.
Okay, send it.
You guys see it in the chat? I want you guys to click on that. He's part of EXP. I love training or seeing some of the stuff that these top EXP people are doing. So and they give these training things out for free. So see all my weekly emails below from November on. These are and if you click on it, you could see like the verbiage and things like that he uses. The reason why these are important is, do you guys get like emails that just looks like cookie cutter, kind of like spam, right? So I think it's important to make it more personal, right? And then with catchy titles of the email instead of just like simple things. So if you go through each of that topic, they're catchy like subject titles, like deal of the month, home sales down 11%, you know, condo prices up, things like that.
Oh, sorry, because you. It's in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, you know, I'll put it in Slack.
Yeah.
Let me put it in Slack for you guys too.
I was just trying to get onto get the link.
Only the Zoom people can get it. Okay, hold on 1 second. Here's my peoples. There you go. Okay, this is just like a template for you guys to use if you're thinking, you know, obviously don't just do this. Follow what I said with regards to the follow-ups and how to put these leads into stages. But this email template could be like the in-between of keeping in touch with your sphere, keeping in touch with your past clients, things like that, okay? So these are tools for you guys to use to customize if you're sending out, let's say, emails to your CRM. Cool? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Are you there? Okay, I'll tell him to open the phone.
Sorry, give me 1 second. So another thing that I want you guys to work on during this downtime, which is what I've been working on as well, and I was showing some of the people that were in this office right now, is I want you guys to work on a handbook. And you could do it in Canva, okay? You guys could use Canva because they have templates available. How do I share my screen? Let's see.
Is he,
Share screen.
the green, yeah. Press that, and then you could do the entire screen. If you go to the, wait, let's see, or just double click screen one. Yeah.
You guys can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to show you a project that I've been working on, and it's called a buyer's guide. And I've been editing it, and I want you guys to make your own, right? The reason why this is important is because you all should have something valuable. Something that sets you apart from another realtor at an open house or another realtor that a buyer is talking to. Okay? This also helps you guys feel more confident. If you take the time to create this and have it available as a PDF or have it available as a free download for your clients and customers, this will set you apart. Okay? I also mentioned to the team here that if, let's say, and some of us, like Michelle and I often get named when, let's say, you go on Forest Hills, parents page or the Forest Hills neighborhood page, and people say, hey, can you refer a realtor that you trust or that you've worked with before? And somebody says, yeah, call Michelle Fisher, right? I want Michelle to be able to say, hey, happy to help. I don't want her to just say, hey, happy to help, call me at this number, right? Because that's what all the other realtors are doing when their names are dropped onto this Facebook page. I want Michelle to say, happy to help. Why don't you download this free buyer's guide first? And then let's connect so I can walk you through the process, right? This buyer's guide is 41 pages and it goes really deep. And believe me that person who asked for the referral will not be the only one downloading this free buyer's guide. And now you've set yourself apart from all the other people that were named or referred in that group. Right? You guys want to see what's in here? So here's a buyer's guide. It says your complete home buyer's guide. I'm going to go through this with you guys. After today, I want you guys to work on it. And then next week, maybe we could discuss like how to tweak it, what to add, what not to add, what questions you guys may have. And then I'll show you my seller's guide, right? But a lot of you guys are kind of at the buyer's guide position right now, more so than the seller's guide. So let's talk buyer's guide. Table of content, we're talking about the steps. Don't worry, Jane, I'm gonna give it to you. Okay. So table of content will give you breakdown of everything that a buyer might want to know when they are looking to purchase, right? Preparing to buy, what are the steps? What is the roadmap? Then you're gonna talk about you, why you should be their agent, why you're a great agent, financials, right? So this gives them a quick snapshot without you going through everything like, hey, are you qualified? You know. But it also sets you apart and you're now the professional. So we're gonna talk about financials, we're gonna talk about finding a home, making an offer, negotiations, home inspections. We're gonna talk about contingencies, the loan approval process, the appraisal, closing and bond, like what not to do before closing, final steps before closing, insurance, like just checklist, right? So if a buyer sees this, wouldn't they feel like you have the knowledge and you have the tools that'll help them purchase a home, as opposed to an agent that just says, hey, call me. So here's the roadmap. Just this is a very quick snapshot. Meet your agent, financial search. How many of you guys on Zoom have something like this already? Does anyone? No? I want you all to create one this year.
I mean, I have a simple one, I don't have anything to this magnitude. And I
Yeah.
have just like a breakdown list of like what they need to expect, cause then,
Are you happy with it though?
I mean, it's not to this extent.
So this,
Yeah.
to this extent, this buyer guide, you guys could actually print it out also and give it to your buyers, especially the ones that sign buyer reps with you. Right?
Lily, I have a question. what's the difference between this one and the one that we have at Marketing Center of EXP? I use those, the ones the buyer and the seller. It works perfectly for me. It's already with all
Yeah.
the graphics, all the pictures from EXP is a beautiful presentation. I use that. Is that similar to this?
I don't
That's what
know,
it is.
to be honest with you, I always like to customize it to my niche, to my market, and then to my team, right? So if you're happy with that one and you customized it, and if it's something that you could give the buyers, I'll show you what's in mine. And then you could decide if you wanna add to the ones that EXP gave too. I
Okay.
love Canva's, templates. So you guys could decide, and then from Canva, you could order booklets, you could order like brochures and things like that. And have it printed.
I mean, you are an Icon agent, I would do anything you teach us.
I don't want you to do anything I say,
This is this is
I
this is
want you to
amazing.
do it, I want you to do it if you feel that it would help your business, right? And if you have the time now, because it is a slower market, then I want you guys to work on your business, right?
I mean, the enterprise one is nice as well. It has,
Yeah.
like
The
these
logo and
pages,
everything.
Get to know me, so it kind of has this build down for you.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
I think it's a good option as well.
yeah,
It has everything that this has, this is just a little more in detail.
yeah,
Um,
it's customized to me.
Yeah.
yeah,
My team. So you customize it to you and your market and your, whoever you think your main target market is.
and Ron, you could always download this and add more pages if you feel like it's missing something in Canva, because it'll allow you to upload the work and then you can tweak it as well.
Yes, yes. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. So you.
Really, when you share this,
No,
I'm sorry, what?
when you share this,
no.
Mine? No, you could go into Canva yourself, and if you type in buyer's guide or something like that, they give you a template and you just have to write your own verbiage and your own, you input the things that you want for your team, for yourself,
got you, thank you.
okay? But EXP Enterprise has, their own. Like this, like all this that I typed over here, it's my team, it's me. So you have to edit, you have to write your own verbiage.
Use ChatGPT.
Yeah, so here, I'll show you. Then a little bit about me. This is like my bio, and you guys could write your own bio. I actually don't like this, it's too wordy, so I'm gonna edit it and I'm gonna tone it down a bit, because I haven't changed my bio for many, many years. Obviously, these people this is still a work in progress. These people don't exist, except for Michelle. These three ladies are stock, right? So you can go in and edit, you can write your own little slogan if you have a team. I wanted to also add like my transaction coordinator, my assistant, my VA, anything that'll set you apart from your competition will be helpful. Okay. Why a great agent is important. Finding a great agent, you need someone with industry knowledge, professional experience, smart negotiation. You obviously can decide if you want to change any of that. Financials. So we start talking to them about planning, how much down payment. Obviously 20% is not the only down payment. It is the most common to avoid PMI. We talked about, making sure that they're within their budget, things that they could also ask their lenders, right? And also checklists of documents that they need. But all of this goes really deep into what I would ask when I'm meeting a buyer for the first time. Does EXP template go into like all that?
No.
Yeah, so Juan, this is the difference, right? So this is kind of like more geared towards New York. And I also added things in for co-ops and condos and why a pre-approval and proof of funds is not the only thing that I need if you're buying a co-op or, you know, I will ask for.
Yeah, I like it.
Credit score checks, what's important. I also go into what's the difference between a pre-qualified versus a pre-approved buyer. Pre-qualified, if you guys understand, stop saying my buyers are pre-qualified. Pre-qualified means that the credit and income has not been checked or verified. Pre-approved is what's better, okay? So when agents ask you or owners ask you, is your buyers qualified? There's a difference between being pre-approved and being pre-qualified.
Correct.
Okay, out-of-pocket expenses, you guys should all know this, by the way. Okay, like if a buyer says, what's so funny, like you don't know it. Yeah. If you're a realtor and the buyers are looking for you for guidance, right? And they say to you, hey, how much should I have? Or what are my closing costs gonna be? How much should I have available? And you don't know that simple question, you're gonna lose that buyer, okay? So you need to know, like, mortgage, when you're buying real property, the buyer's largest expense most of the time is their mortgage tax, mortgage recording tax. When you're buying a co-op, it's not real property, right? So they don't have that recording tax. And you see me write it here, it does not apply to co-ops as they are a different form of ownership. So this is also tweaked to my market and my niche. Okay.
Lily, a question.
Uh-huh.
When a buyer asks you that question, what's your answer, about the closing cost?
If it's a property, if it's a house, real property, I usually say about 4% of the mortgaged amount.
An average about between four and five, right? That's what I've been told.
4 to 5% of the mortgaged amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a co-op, it's anywhere between 1 to 2%.
Mm-hmm. Got it?
Yep.
Did you hear what Michelle said with co-ops?
Yes.
Okay.
1%.
1 to 2.
1 to 2. Okay.
And then that's just an overall, but then if they want you to break it down, here's the breakdown. Okay. Title insurance, flip tax, other expenses, bank attorney fees. You know, you have to pay for the bank attorney to show up, which is crazy.
In co-ops?
For everything, not just co-ops. So touring a home, what they should do, what they should look at. Sometimes buyers are so fixed on other people's furniture and other people's paint color, right? You have to let them know that they should look past that. They should look at things that are fixed, like the size of the home, the neighborhood, the lot size. Those are things that cannot be changed, right? Versus things that are cosmetic that could be changed. So we go into that. For co-ops and condos, we talk to them about, doing their due diligence or knowing about buildings and amenities and financials. As realtors, if we sell a lot of co-ops and I have a buyer client that is, hi Ram, how are you? If I have a buyer client that wants to know which buildings are financially sound and which are not financially sound, we kind of have insider info on that, right? Like, we know if this building has insane amounts of assessments or significant maintenance increases. We know if a building has litigation and financing to it becomes a problem. That is the advantage, or that is the benefit of working with someone like you or someone like your team. So that's something that you should definitely emphasize when you're speaking to a potential lead, letting them know the difference between you and, let's say, an agent from ABC Realty. House hunting tips, make sure that you understand their wants and their must-haves. And like, when I speak with a lead, a lot of times I don't work these buyer leads, right? I speak to them and then I give them out to my team. But when I give them out to my team, I let my teams know, like, this is what they must have. They need to be, like, I spoke with someone yesterday and she was asking me about the stadium noise, with the concerts. And then she talked about being close to the train. So I said to her, well, which is more important to you? Because the train is near the stadium, right? So you gotta figure out also like what is a must and what is a would like to have, right? Cause I don't wanna not show you something if being close to the train is more important than the actual noise. Cause you're gonna just eliminate things that shouldn't be eliminated. But making an offer, making a competitive offer, we talked about this, right, at another training, like how do you know what to advise your buyers to give as an offer? Many agents just tell them to give a little less than asking. That's like their tool. But how do you know the asking is actually the accurate price? Many times the listing agents also don't know. They just price it where the owner wants them to price it at, and it might not be the true market value, right? So you as their realtor, you have to let them know that a reasonable offer is based on current market conditions, based on comparable properties that have sold in the actual area within the last 6 months or even 3 months. If interest rates significantly change, then the market significantly changed, right? Also, if you're dealing with co-ops and condos, you have to let them know that maintenance matters, property tax matters for condos. So if, let's say, a building has significantly higher carrying costs, obviously the price is gonna be a lot lower, right? And vice versa, because it works inadvertently together, right? They're contingent on each other. So for example, we had a co-op listing that in January, the maintenance went up 30%. Isn't that crazy? 30%. So what we did was we dropped the price a lot, right? To make up for the difference. Okay, negotiate. Again, don't worry about the wording, we're still fixing it. But it talks about like going back and forth and making sure like your offer is taken seriously. Contingencies, we talk about contingencies too. So I was like, I'm gonna go into contingencies with you guys because you should know that it should be added to your buyer's guide as well. Okay, and you should be asking your buyers questions like, hey, is your purchase contingent on the sale of your existing home, for example, right? Because if you're not asking that in advance, you're wasting your time.
Lily, how do we find basically what the ratio the management has to have with the job to consider the co-op or the co-op management is in a healthy condition?
You gotta look at the financials, like the most recent financials in the budget, right? You could also ask maintenance increase histories. You could also ask, are there any expected major projects coming up? And how are these projects gonna be funded, right? So owners are usually given notice of this information. But you could also reach out to management to try to find out, but a lot of times it's also word of mouth too, from agents in our community. Like Michelle and I found out like a building in Forest Hills is in like horrible shape after something happened and now banks are not lending to this particular building, right? So things like that, just having conversations with your peers also helps. So if you know, let's say I do co-ops and the co-ops in Forest Hills, you can ask me like, hey, what do you know about this building? Right? Okay.
Now, when you make friends also with other agents, they'll let you know. So it's good, it's important, like, you know, when you're working with buyers, to have good relationships with outside agents because they'll give you the 411 without even you know.
Yeah. I've had competing agents ask me, like they would call me and say, hey, how does this board qualify? Michelle's like, don't help her.
In that case, do you give them right answer or?
I give them the right answer.
It depends if I like them.
I play nicely, yeah. But yeah, like asking people, sometimes I'll go into Street Easy and I'll see who has sold in the building before. And I might ask them, hey, do you have the most recent financials on this? Cause my sellers can't find it, or, and if I have that good relationship, I've had Steve Burrum send me stuff, I've had other agents send me stuff, like, they'll just send it to me because I've helped them and they help me, and it's like, we're working together to get deals done. But it's good to make friends, but also in EXP, you get sponsorship bonuses by recruiting people, right? So the nicer you are, the potential that you can bring them over.
Multiple way.
Yeah, multiple ways. So I go into documents needed, obviously for a condo or a house, you just need proof of funds and a pre-approval. Whereas for a co-op, you're gonna need tax returns, pay stubs, credit report, bank statements. I was getting into an argument with this agent, he's like, I've been doing this for 19 years and I wouldn't be working at Douglas Elliman if I didn't know what I was doing. He sends me a financial statement, right? Let's just say he didn't know what he was doing, because he was trying to squeeze a family size larger than what is allowed based on the occupancy that the co-op will be okay with, okay? And some of you guys might think, well, that's discrimination, you can't discriminate based on family size. You guys have to understand that co-ops is not real property, it's shares of a corporation. And if their proprietary lease indicates occupancy standards, absolutely, you can say you cannot move in here with a family of 4 or a family of 5 because the board will reject you. Okay, so these documents are really important to look at, because if, let's say you're showing someone a 1-bedroom and you find out that they have a family of 4 and you work like months and months on them and they're ready to submit an offer, and then you realize that they cannot go into a 1-bedroom with a family of 4, you've wasted everyone's time. Obviously, you could go in and have as much babies as you want afterwards, they're gonna kick you out. But the process of going into the co-op at that time, you cannot. Unfortunately, family size matters. Okay, so things like this helps you have that conversation with the buyers, let them know that these are the documents we need and this is the reason why we need them. Okay. Negotiate, find out what's important to the seller. Sorry about the little P over here. I've had agents call me and tell me, well, what's more important to the owner? Is it timing? Is it price? Is it down payment? And like a recent one that we sold in Brooklyn, what was most important to the owner, even though we had a higher offer, was down payment. Right? Because people were bidding over asking, we needed to make sure that they had a healthy enough down payment and reserve so that if appraisal falls short, they could bridge the gap and put more down payment. So it doesn't hurt sometimes for you, if you're submitting an offer for your buyer, to find out what is important to the seller. Is it, do they need more time after closing? Do they need to stay in the property? Is it the price? Is it the terms? Is it the inspection, right? So these contingencies actually matter. Making an offer. So all of this in here, guys, not only helps guide your buyer, but to be honest, the reason I want all of you to have one is it also helps guide you. Because a lot of you are newer where you don't know what is important, right? Putting in a competitive, oh, I'm going backwards, sorry. Home inspection. Make sure that you allow for inspection to be completed. If you're representing the buyer, obviously you want to make sure that you're covered, right? Do not tell them to waive the inspection because of this, because of that. Because you could come back, they could come back and sue you, right? If they find something later on. So inspection, why it's important, if what comes up is serious, they might back out, they could renegotiate. Let's talk about contingencies. Have you guys read a form contract before? You know, when these lawyers send out contracts, right? A lot of times you're using these boilerplate contracts that have been created already by the bar, and they're just inserting the names and the shares and the maintenance and everything, right? And then they'll slap on like a rider, their rider. So you have to know these finance contingencies, because you have to know and you have to educate your buyer that, you know, a lot of contracts just have mortgage contingencies. They don't have appraisal contingencies. Do you guys know the difference?
Mortgage and appraisal? Appraisal is if the appraisal falls short, if the contingency, if there is an appraisal contingency, then the buyer can either renegotiate or walk away.
Correct.
If there is no, if they put that there's no appraisal contingency, if appraisal falls short, the buyer has to come up with the difference in order to meet the mortgage requirements.
And in a standard contract, there is no appraisal contingency. There's only a mortgage contingency. Okay?
And
So you guys have to know that, let's say your buyer puts 20% down, right? And the property appraises for less. But because they're putting more down payment, the bank is still gonna give them the commitment letter and the mortgage, right? You as an agent and the buyer cannot come back and say, I wanna renegotiate the price because the appraisal came in lower. Because there was no appraisal contingency in the contract, there's only a financing or mortgage contingency. Got it? So a lot of agents that come back to me and like, oh, we wanna renegotiate. I'm like, sorry. You got a mortgage commitment, didn't you?
you should have
Yes.
negotiated earlier.
No, sorry, your buyer has to move ahead or they will be in default, right? Because you got a mortgage contingency. So you guys, as realtors, as the experts, have to understand and explain to them what the difference is. Okay, especially when you're submitting an offer, right? If you want an appraisal contingency, you have to indicate that. There is a standard board approval contingency in a co-op in a co-op contract too. There's also contingencies in there that a lot of realtors do not know. And that contingency states that once your buyer gets the mortgage commitment, they have 5 business days to submit a complete and accurate board application to management. A lot of agents don't know that this language actually exists in the contract, and they think they have a lot of time to get it done, right? If the transaction is all cash, the contract says that they have 10 business days from when contracts were fully executed to get the application in. Okay? So things like this, you guys really need to learn and know and educate your buyers, because they need to start working on the application ahead of time. There's also sales contingencies, right? So sales contingencies means that a buyer has to sell their property before they can transact on what they're looking to purchase. It's pretty rare. Like, I usually will not tell my sellers to agree to a contingency like that unless the buyer has already a contract in place, right? And if it's a co-op that they have a contract in place and their buyer has been already approved by the board. And there's also stipulation on the number of days that if it's not sold by or closed by X amount of days that we can walk away. Okay, these sales contingencies again are very rare. So if you know your buyer has to sell before they could buy, you really need to get their property on the market and under contract before you start searching for a home. It's a listing opportunity. And that's why these questions really should be asked. Like, do you need to sell anything before you can buy? Okay. Title contingency, you guys know what title is, right? It shows ownership and it's like a transfer of deed. There shouldn't be a break in the title, meaning if, let's say Ellen sells to Michelle and Michelle sells to Lily, you can't have it where Ellen sells to Michelle and then Lily sells to Jade, like what happened between Michelle and Lily, right? So if there's any discrepancy, there's an issue. Title will also show you liens on the property, like mortgage liens, DOB liens, violations, things like that. Okay, so title is one of the contingencies in the contract that has to be cleared. For co-op, there is no title, there's only a UCC, right? Which is like a lien search instead of a title search. And then there's also insurance contingencies where I think, Michelle, you had a situation where your buyer couldn't buy insurance or
Yeah.
something.
So I learned that recently, so if you have homeowners insurance, and if you claimed homeowners insurance, you will be blacklisted from other companies to issue you homeowners insurance. So it's crazy, I never knew that, so this is a new thing, she ended up having to pay top dollar to get homeowners insurance, or she wouldn't be able to close. And the reason why she claimed is because the upstairs neighbor kept having leaks, so it wasn't even her fault. Because she claimed it, no one wanted to insure her.
So these are questions why, like you guys, if her buyer didn't have the means to get this added insurance, the deal would have died. Because if she couldn't get the insurance, then she couldn't get the loan, and then it wouldn't close, okay?
That was for a call?
Yeah.
We're screwed.
I mean, it's gonna be for the house, it could be for anyone.
Yeah,
As long as you've claimed your insurance before, they were not gonna,
They blacklisted for a few years.
yeah.
I had 3 leaks in my apartment.
Did you
I
claim?
separate times, yeah.
You couldn't,
Yeah.
uh-oh, you gotta check
We
your.
like redid the floor, so the building won't, Continental will not.
Yeah.
like, If you
Yeah.
never touch the floor, they'll do it for
Yeah.
you, but if you like change them, they won't, and the unit like twice.
Yeah, I've seen that happen in one of the units, I think, team floor and Continental.
You better use it for a big.
Yeah,
Yeah, you better risk it, something's big in there.
Really? The 7th floor?
The full bit of 100K
Yeah.
versus
Not the, not the combination. No. Fourth floor. Okay, closing and beyond. So you also have to educate your buyers because buyers are crazy. They all of a sudden realize they're buying a house and then they get like a new credit card and they start maxing it out, buying furniture, buying this, buying that. You have to let them know what they cannot do before closing because the banks are gonna do another check before they give you a clear to close, okay? So you have to tell your buyers, don't change your job, don't buy a card, don't open a crazy Crate and Barrel credit card and you buy, all the furniture for your home until you get the clearance to close. Or
Until you
you
close.
have. But also, if you know you have a low enough DTI, yes, but if you're borderline, please don't do that, like, you're gonna ruin the deal. Okay? Here is final steps, insurance requirements, closing disclosure, final walkthrough. CDs, like buyers are always asking, like, when am I gonna know what my expenses are? When is the lender gonna give me my closing disclosures? They're required to give it to you 3 days before closing for you to sign. Final walkthrough. I've had situations where my sellers close the gas line despite me telling them not to. So then buyers can't check the stove. And then that becomes an issue because then money has to be put in escrow, right? So you guys should know what should be checked during a final walkthrough. If they made promises of things that needed to be fixed, you check if those were in fact fixed. And the property was in fact left in room clean condition. Okay, so information on homeowners insurance, you guys should give them information on that. You should give them information on title insurance and title searches. And a lot of buyers don't understand that they actually could choose their own title company. You don't have to use the one that the attorney chooses, because sometimes the one that the attorney chooses is more expensive because they own part of it. Yes. So you guys have to know that, okay? Your job is to protect the buyer, your clients. Okay, and then clear to close, closing, schedule your move. You guys should have a list of vendors that you are comfortable with, that you know that you could refer, right? So you could make a list of these vendors that you could refer out. Some of the terms buyers don't understand, some agents don't understand. You should put your testimonials on because that matters. And then resources, right? You guys could put landscapers, electrical. I'm gonna edit this, but I have cleaning companies. We have movers, we have plumbers, we have contractors that we refer. I have landscapers also that I refer. So this information, you could work with those vendors, by the way. And I did one of the trainings before where you should be trading referrals with these vendors, right? I just referred a contractor, a co-op to renovate. And he has given me leads on people that are renovating and looking to sell. Right? So it's a great way for you to build relationships with vendors where you could give each other business and build your business, right? And make sure they actually do a good job also. Okay? Home touring checklist, bedroom, blah, 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 and then notes for them. So I want you guys to work on this or something like this. And think about your market, think about your customer, think about your niche. And I want you guys to create this so that next week, when we meet again, we could go over what's in your buyer's guide and how to best use it. Okay, you guys have any questions? It's a lot of info.
No questions, mostly happy to see what you use and use some of this to add, like you said, whatever we're using, and it's great. I use this presentation especially for the buyers. It
Yeah.
works perfectly good. The buyers will not leave you in the, they will not switch agents because you explain what's coming in the process from A to Z and all this good stuff that you add at the end with the vendors. I like that. I don't have that, but it's a good tip. I think it's gonna help.
Yeah, I want you to go into yours, Juan, and update it, like add additional things that'll help your business grow. Do you have a seller's one?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a seller's handbook too. So
I
let's,
I'm working on that. My commitment. We just came back from Bahamas right now, and one of those are in my list to work in the buyer. I mean the seller presentation,
Mhm.
because over there with the coach that we had, this mastermind was amazing. How he was teaching us, how to work with the sellers. The sellers presentation. I think I'm lacking a little bit of confidence and knowledge. So
Yeah.
I'm coming back here now. I'm gonna work this week on that one to make one good one. So
Yeah.
yeah, the commitment is to go door knocking, and in order to do that, we have to know these things and to not to be struggling when we meet sellers.
Can I add something also that, like witnessing, when I go open properties for my listing and I see people showing properties, I need you guys to understand that this is a people business. You're building relationships, you're making them feel comfortable. Don't be an order taker. What I mean is, don't be robotic, right? And I've had agents just stand there playing on their phone instead of like engaging their buyers and showing them the property. And obviously, you don't wanna also be robotic where you're like, this is the kitchen, this is the living room. Obviously, they know this is the kitchen, right? It's stupid for you to say, this is the kitchen. But you could point out things.
I mean, you have buyers for them. This is the kitchen, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but don't make them feel dumb, because like, obviously, it's the kitchen. But, I was also showing, another buyer, listing I had at the Kennedy House, and walking them through, from the lobby all the way upstairs, you have a little bit of small talk, right? And that's I'm sorry, did somebody say something? You have that opportunity to build, rapport, to build relationships. So as I'm waiting at the elevator, like, you don't wanna be like quiet and silent and it's just awkward. But that's a great time to say, so have you been in this building? Have you seen the amenities? Do you live in the neighborhood? And, you know, and they said, no, we're from Brooklyn. I'm like, okay, so what brings you to Forest Hills? And they went into details like, well, you know, we live in Brooklyn, we have family in Floral Park, I work in Manhattan. And then I said, okay, so this is like the middle ground of where you guys, you know, and it's the conversations that you have and the input that you have where they hear that you understand them. And they're not just a transaction, right? So I don't want you guys to just say, like, let's say a lead calls and you're like, okay, so you called about the Kennedy House. You wanna see this 2-bedroom, 2-bath? I'll meet you there at, you know, and it's just like you're an order taker, like. Go deeper, find out about them. Why are they looking in Forest Hills? When do they need to be there by? You know, find their motivation, like these little questions that you ask matters and it helps you build that relationship with them instead of just being a order taker. When you're doing open houses, right, you need to set yourself apart too. I've seen people just not engage the people that are walking through. And you're just like, take a look around, you know, ask me if you have any questions.
Yeah.
And that's horrible, horrible, right? You have to build that relationship and say, you know, how long have you been looking? Are you looking for a pre-war building? What's important to you? Do you have any pets? You know, and just, if they mention something like, oh, I love this kitchen, it's so big, then talk about that. Like, is that what you're looking for? You know, larger kitchen, you know, just don't be robotic, don't be afraid to have those conversations. And that's what's gonna also set you apart from the other realtors out there, because so many realtors are just so afraid to have the conversations, to build those relationships, because they think they're gonna say something wrong. But it's better to have those conversations, promise you. Just don't say anything like fair housing related, please. Okay. Any questions? So when you're cleaning up your leads, you know, go a little deeper. When you're in your CRM, find out a little bit more about them, their motivation, what's the reason behind their move. And if you build that relationship, they will stay with you. Any questions, guys? Meh?
No questions.
Okay, can we work on our buyer guide and cleaning up our CRM this week?
Yes. Yes.
I wanted to
Yes.
talk about some objections that the buyers might have, but we could talk about that next week. Okay? You tell me when you're cleaning up your CRM, like what objections you have heard, and then let's try to tackle it together.
Thank you.
But I did give you guys the some buyer objection questions before. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, Ellen.
It might be very simple. Where do you organize your CRM? Like, is there an app or is there one in
Katie Core.
Oh, I don't think.
EXP gives,
Newport has a lot of stuff.
Oh, okay.
and they have training videos too. So start adding your clients into this CRM that gives you guys. But KV Core, if you're not part of EXP, I think they charge you a few hundred per month for it. It's an amazing database for you to manage your clients.
Okay.
My team uses Brevity, but we pay extra for that. It's just because we were part of Brevity prior to coming to EXP. And I like their systems and I just didn't want to change. But any CRM that you could utilize in like, it's better than nothing. Okay, it's better than what's in your, you know, you're keeping it all in your head.
And then, like she
I
said,
write
like,
everything on the front and I use it.
like she said, like then you can filter who's like your A buyers or B buyers, or like follow up as far as anniversaries or sending them holiday bits or just market bits.
Or those emails,
Yeah.
that email topics that I sent you guys. Alright,
Sounds good.
a lot to work on this week, clean up your CRM, work on your buyer's guide, and then we're gonna reconnect, okay?
We connect.
Reconnect. Bye, everyone.